Welcome back to episode 8 of Chambers Chatter. I'm Laura Chambers-Babelis.
And I'm Shay Chambers-Helms. Today we are so excited to introduce Marlena Smalls, who's probably most well known for being a founder of the Gullah Festival and one of the Hallelujah Girls. Welcome to the show, Marlena.
Let me start with my South Carolina connection.
Okay.
My mom was born in Honeypath, South Carolina. Her mother was out of the Charleston community, and she met an upstate guy, what some people would call him a mulatto, but that would be an African descent mixed with European descent. So on his father's side, it was English, and there comes the name Clements or Clemence. But anyway, so that's the start. That's the root of it all because of my mom. My mom loved Carolina, always loved Carolina, ended up in Ohio to finish some education and never returned to Carolina. Her heart did, but her body did not. She married my dad, who was an Alabama man. So after my marriage went kaput, I decided to, having had some jobs in Carolina, and my mom always talked about the sun. The sun never shined anywhere else but in South Carolina. So the peaches was better, the watermelon was better, the brick masons were better, everything was better. So I decided to join my sister on St. Helena Island because her husband was from St. Helena, and I never returned. I came in 1982, and I reared all of my children here. All of my children, except for my 2 oldest boys, were educated here, colleges here, and everything. My 2 oldest boys went off to the military and retired out as officers, got all of their schooling in the military. And so that's how I came to South Carolina. Carolina, Beaufort in particularly, saved me.
Oh.
And because it saved me, it helped me to save and rear my children. So needless to say, I was born in Middletown, Ohio, but I had a rebirthing when I entered Beaufort, South Carolina.
That's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
I have chills.
That's beautiful.
What changes have you seen on St. Helena since the 80s? Or biggest changes?
The biggest changes would probably be the roads. I think that everything, I'm not on St. Helena a lot, so I don't think it's fair to me to give my idea of what St. Helena is doing. But for me, when I go on St. Helena to visit my sister, everything is basically the same.
Yeah.
And in some instances, that's good. And in saying that, that's what keeps the culture intact. Because if the people leave, just like if all the natural-born Beaufortonians leave, then what happens to the spirit and the life of Beaufort?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It starts
and
to
New
show.
Yorkers and Chicagoans and everybody else, some bit back come in, and you return, that Beaufort that you love, you may not see. So when I go over to St. Helena, it is still the same for me.
That's good. I like that it's still remaining the same.
When you say you had a rebirthing when you came here, are you able to articulate like what that was and what those things were that gave you that sense of a rebirth that are so special to hear?
When I moved here, being African American, I assumed that the Black community would embrace me because I grew up, my first teachers, they were all Southerners. My mother's friends were all Southerners, and they were always doing things together. My mom's family, when things were short, the dresses and everything would come from the South. When they would come in, they would have preserves and linen and all kind of fabric for my mom to use to make life better in the North. I didn't see that from Northerners, but I saw that love and that connection from Southerners. When I moved here, I didn't see that because I did from older Blacks, but not from younger Blacks. They recognized quickly that I was a Northerner and my lifestyle and my viewpoints was different from theirs. So, but here's the thing. Because my father made a decision, I integrated school. I was in the 3rd grade, so I was around 9. Up until then, all the teachers were Black. All the students were Black. I didn't live in a totally Black city. It was Middletown, but my experience was all Black. When I moved to Dayton, Ohio, we were the minority and the whites, you know. The outcome of that, having all of the frustrations, the bickering, the fighting. I remember running home to my dad. My dad worked what you call a swing shift, and he was home, and I ran home because kids were picking on me, and I ran into his arms, and he said, "What's wrong?" Call me Poochie Girl. What's wrong? Excuse me. What's wrong? And I told him that they were calling me names, and I didn't like it, and I wanted to go back to Middletown. And my father put me on his knees, and he said one of the most profound statements to me. I didn't understand it at the time, but he said, "I never got to go to school."
Oof.
Mm.
Oof.
Wow.
And he dried my eyes, and I had a little lunch, and he put me in the car, and he took me back. But as an adult, it taught me that you have to stand the test. You know what I mean? And what I was sharing earlier, America doesn't offer you anything but the right to do. And if you've got the strength and the stamina. So in Beaufort, and I'm being perfectly honest, I had senior Blacks that helped me quite a bit, but my biggest support came from white Beaufortonians. And they nurtured me, helped me with my children. They saw maybe the good in me or my capabilities. I can't tell you what they saw, but I can tell you this, that, and I don't like saying they, and I don't like saying white, but my Beaufortonians like Betty Ann Meade, Harriet Kaiserling, I could just go down the list. Susan Wilson, some of them have gone on to glory. They helped me. They helped me with issues with my bills, issues with jobs, issues with me buying my homes, issues with.
They supported you.
Yes. And that's the lesson that my dad taught me. My dad taught me, you're going to stand here and you're going to see a bigger world. And so therefore, as you get older, you're going to be able to fit in that world and you're going to be comfortable in that world. And so Beaufort, after a broken marriage, not knowing what I was going to do with my children, those that did wrap their arms around me supported me. And here I am today on my way to being 78, and some of them have gone on to glory. And I'm Billy Kaiser, and I talked about it the other day, and I'm richer for it. You know what I mean? I am so richer for it. So whatever the country is going through, I know who we are and what we can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this moment, it doesn't disturb me.
Right. Right. Yeah. Oh, that was worded so beautifully. So when you got here in the 80s, early 80s, I know I've seen kind of what happened. So kind of explain what happened. What was your job moving through, and what happened next when you moved here?
Well, I was a social worker in Dayton, so I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to hear anybody's problems because I had enough damn problems of my own. So I didn't want to hear somebody telling me about what the husband did and what the husband didn't do, because mine wasn't doing nothing and he had the finances to do, but he didn't. and he was loving everybody else but me. But anyway, so I packed my kids up, and I didn't want to hear anybody's problems, you know. So the first person I worked for was her husband owned the car dealership, Laura Ragsdale. Call me back so I can tell you the story about Laura Ragsdale. So she hired me said she wanted me to be a tutor for her two boys. And so when I got there, basically she gave me a mop, a rag, and a to clean her house. She was a hoot.
Oh my goodness.
And I don't think I'm sharing anything that if you know Laura Ragsdale, then you know what I'm saying is true. But that was my first job. And then that ended because she wanted me to go up to Michigan with her family and take care of her boys for Thanksgiving. And I said, well, who's going to cook dinner for my boys? And she said, you're going to have to hire somebody. And I said, baby cakes, that's not going to work. And I quit. So that was my first job. And I had, and then because nobody at that time knew that I could sing, whatever. So my second job, I worked for a family on Hermitage. I took care of them at night. My third job was, I still didn't want to work for, by that time, my husband had to pay support and alimony, so it was good. I didn't have to worry as much.
Finally.
And then I worked for Kmart's, and girl, listen, I quit Kmart's because they put me behind the jewelry counter, and the senior workers became angry because I was working behind the jewelry counter in Kmart's. And I told one of the girls, I said, have you lost your ever-loving mind? You know this in Kmart. All of it together ain't worth $200. And you sitting up here worried about me working in the jewelry counter at Kmart. So I quit. Oh, God. I quit. And about that time, I did a concert at Fripp Island, and some of the ladies told me that I needed to go to Columbia and sing for South Carolina Arts Commission, and I did. So after that, I worked for the state of South Carolina and then for Beaufort.
So you didn't start singing until much later in your life then?
No, I sang. I did a tour for Methodism in England.
Oh.
And Scotland and Ireland before I moved here. That's when I sang for the Queen. Yeah. So I was traveling and singing before I got here, but I didn't want to do that here. Yeah. My mind was on my children. They didn't want to be here. They didn't have much. Their daddy wasn't here. So it was always, Mama, I want to go home. Can we stay with Grandma? Can we go back today? Mommy, I don't like it here. Oh. The language, that they didn't understand a lot of the kids on the island. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So it was difficult for them. Yeah. The older ones, not the babies as much.
Yeah. What was it like singing for the Queen, though? Did you get to meet her?
It was a job. No.
No. Okay.
No.
Just a job. Yeah.
I shouldn't say that, but it was. I was more impressed by singing some of the cathedrals. Yeah. In England. Not having any modern day amplification. You're just singing in this cathedral and your voice just rings. One of my experiences, and you think that it's cold. The building is cold, and it was a Lincoln Cathedral, I think. I could be wrong, but I think it was Lincoln Cathedral. And they're very stiff and everything. And I sang this song, When I See a Mountain. And when I was finished with it, the whole audience stood up back in the seat.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. But what I learned, this is what I learned in being in Europe, that in Europe, I could be me. Mm. In America, because of my voice lessons and my teachings. My mother was a musicologist. And I always sang in different congregations, in Jewish synagogues, or But if I was in a let's say a white church, to do Amazing Grace, I would have to sing it. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. If I'm in a black church, I would have to do Amazing Grace. And so
I just got chills just that
you know
little
what I
bit.
mean?
Though.
And so it's like it's two in one of me. But when I went to Europe, all they wanted me to do was sing.
Oh, he could just be, yeah.
Yeah, so I found me in Europe. And so so that was the blessing of being in Europe. That was the biggest lesson that I got out of being over there.
Okay, so we've now quit Kmart. And we've now started working for the state of South Carolina, and this is when you started your really big music career here.
Yes.
Okay.
I was one of I don't know if they still have it, but at that time they had what they called the top artists in South Carolina. They had the music, instrumentations, vocals, fine arts, visual arts, dancers, the top 10, I think. It was top 10 or 5 of us. And South Carolina had its own agency, and they would send us out. We were being booked to South Carolina, yeah. And that was the beginning, yeah. And through that, I went abroad, and I represented South Carolina. I think that time it was Germany. And I went over there, and I did other shows for Carolina, and I ended up being a vocalist for Dick Riley, then governor. And so, life is so hilarious and so funny. And I remember one night I had to do a private presentation for Dick Riley at the governor's mansion, and my mom wanted to go with me. So my mom was born in 1920, and she was born in Anderson County, which is on the cusp of Clemson. And during her childhood, she couldn't walk to Clemson. They couldn't go to Clemson. Blacks weren't allowed to go toward Clemson. So as we were approaching the governor's mansion, my mom grabbed my hand and she said, and now listen to what I'm getting ready to tell you. This is an educated woman and she's a master musician, master pianist, piano, pipe organ, and everything. And she grabbed my hand and she said, "Do you know where you are?" And I'm running late. And I said, "Yes, Mom, I'm at the governor's mansion. I got to go. I got to change." I said, "Come on, let's go." And she pulled me back as I was opening the gate. And she says, "No, do you know where you are?" And I said, "Yes, Mommy, I know where I am. Let's go." So we went to the little cottage, and I changed my clothes, went over into the mansion. And so the butler was walking around with tea and drinks and beverages, excuse me. And my mom asked the butler, she said, "Honey, do you want me to help you?" And he says, "No, I got it." And he went around walking around some more. And she said, "Honey, you've been walking all night. You don't think I should help you?" He said, "No, ma'am, I'm the butler."
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
That life.
Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Very special.
So as you moved through your singing career, when did the Hallelujah group form?
Well, my mom and I started teaching piano and voice. Yeah. She had about 5 students. And I complained because my oldest daughter was on violin, and there was not a violin instructor in Beaufort on this side, but there was one on Hilton Head. And then I started complaining about what we did not have for the children on this side of the Broad. And my mom said, "Brighten your corner where you are."
I love that. That's a beautiful saying.
Brighten the corner where you are. Brighten is old hymn. And So I started working with my mother, and she had 5 students. And when I started traveling, I ended up with maybe 160 kids between voice and whatnot. And so I started doing some wonderful things with my students. I took them to the Spoleto.
Oh, so fun.
Some of them had never traveled outside of Beaufort County. So I had some parents and some teenagers, and we boarded the train in Yamasee and went to Charleston.
We want to take a quick break to thank our sponsor, Watkins Mechanical.
Hey y'all, it's Josh with Watkins Mechanical. Warm weather is finally here and your system is working hard to keep you cool. Here are 3 quick tips to help. 1. Replace your air filters monthly. Restrictions cause your system to work harder and reduce your air quality. 2. Keep your outdoor unit clean. Remove any leaves, debris, or dirt for proper airflow. 3. Set your thermostat at a constant temperature. Programmable thermostats improve efficiency and help save you money. For quality service and lasting results, call Watkins Mechanical, trusted in the Lowcountry for over 25 years. Brian, whatever it takes.
And then we went to see Nancy Wilson. So my youngest student was about 5, and I remember her parents saying, Marlena, is she going to stay up? And I said, I know my mom took me to see Mahalia Jackson. I was 5, and I remember what she had on to this day. And so we went, took the kids there. But my calling was maybe bigger than that. Mm-hmm. But anyway, outside of that, I started doing recitals with the kids. And out of the recitals, the parents, I did a play and downtown at USCB, and it was quite a success because I had students. I had Asian students, I had Hispanic students, Black students, white students. I had everybody. And I did a performance downtown, and my friends that live in the Point came to me and saying, how in the hell did you get that mixed audience like that? You know, Harriet Kaiser, Marlena, what did you do to get? You know what? I never even thought about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I never really thought about it because that had been my world since the 3rd grade. So I never really thought about it. And so out of that, Harriet Kaiser asked me if I could write a Gullah production.
Oof.
And I did. And that's how it started. And the parents became my first group.
Wow.
Yeah. It was 48 singers, I think.
Oh my, when was this?
84,
Okay.
85.
So roughly right when you moved here, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that group still around today?
Oh, yeah, they're still here, but I don't work with that many anymore. Because I had to perfect the sound.
Right, of course.
And everybody, you know, there were school teachers and retired people and everything, you know, people that had a voice. But there, you know, there's a singer and then there's an entertainer. So everybody that can sing does not necessarily need to be on the stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and Harry Kaiser told me that you need to perfect that. Marlena, are you up? I need to talk to you about perfecting the group. And so, so I did. So we went from 48 to 25 and 25 to 15, 15 to 12, and I'm now down to 7, 8.
Wow. Yeah, 48's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy.
A whole lot of women. Can you imagine?
Yeah, no comments on that one.
Can only imagine.
So you also had a lot of influence on the Gullah Festival here too, correct?
The Gullah Festival was my baby.
Okay. Tell us about that.
The Gullah Festival, now I'm going to share this. There's a difference between a vision and a dream.
Mm-hmm.
A dream, as pleasant as it can be or as horrific as it can be, when you wake up, it's over.
Yeah.
A vision is a plan, you know? And my vision then and now is always to heal. And when I do my lectures or my presentation for groups, I always start off with that we're all equal. Mm-hmm. Some of us are more equal than others, but we're all equals. And so we're all equals because we're women. We're more equals because we're senior women. You know what I mean? And we could just go on, but we're all human. So he belongs to the equality. You see what I'm saying? And so that was, to do Gullah was to create a sense of equality. Not to say one is better than or greater than the other one, because when we teach history, we leave out so much, because a lot of times we're always teaching from one perspective.
Right.
So let's take a subject like the Underground Railroad. Okay. The Underground Railroad, Harriet Tubman is ever fantastic. A soldier. I'll give her that. But there was no way she could have done that had it not been for the Quaker community, which happened to be white. There was no way. There was no way that system, and I said to you guys earlier, there was no way that I could have done some of the things had it not been for my white brothers and sisters. So it is in life with everything. And my job in doing Gullah was to show African Americans, as well as our brothers and sisters, the contributions that we share today. And the word is share, that we share today that were African born, like the sweet potato, like peanuts, like shag dancing, like rhythm and blues, like bluegrass, because it belongs to blues, and so on and so forth, like the violin. It was born in Africa. Like the flute, it was born in Africa. So it is to share so that everybody can feel good about themselves. And then the interesting thing is that when you have a dinner, let's take Thanksgiving. I'm just going to use two dishes. Thanksgiving, we have yams, do we not? Okay. Then the other dish is macaroni and cheese. How many people, how many African Americans are aware that macaroni and cheese is a French dish? Because it's a casserole.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I teach my kids, anytime, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, anytime our children would have been able to eat all over the world and never leave America.
Yeah.
That
is so true.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
So true.
And so that was my goal with the Gullah Festival. So yes, it was my brainchild. I asked some Beaufortonians to help me. I got the backing from, didn't have to write a grant. Governor Riley gave us $45,000.
Wow.
Wow.
He gave me $45,000, and I gave it to them, and we had Charleston to come in. We had Atlanta Museum to come in, and this person. I had Grammy winners, Walter Hawkins, to come in, and I bet you we only had about, I'm going to max it out, maybe 50 people.
The first year.
Because I wasn't from here.
Interesting. Wow.
I wasn't from here. And just because you think you can get the white establishment to we're not going to support you, But the state of South Carolina did something that was very interesting, because since that inception of the Gullah Festival, everybody has a Gullah Festival now in the quarter. But the state of South Carolina put out, which stopped people from claiming, the state of South Carolina, I didn't ask them, their marketing piece for me was the face of Gullah, because I'm the one that has taken it all over the world. I forgot, I took it to Japan.
Really?
Yeah.
How soon after you started at Beaufort?
In fact, the military sent me to Japan.
What?
I went on, yeah. The general at Paris Island sent me over there to Marine Base.
How many years into the Gulf? The beginning, like when did that start?
That was probably back in the 90s. I went over there. I was there for a month because I had to teach the play.
Wow. I don't think people understand the history and culture behind the Gullah Festival at all.
They do, but I guess I don't
To
know.
the scope of it. To the scope.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And remember, I started out talking about vision. It has not reached my vision yet.
What is your envision for it?
I think that when we have the Gullah Festival here, I think that Gullah is a culture, and the base of it is African. But the African went so many places, so through the slave trade and even before. So let's take the Caribbean, United States. You go down to South America, you cross over into Mexico, and then you go into Hawaii, and you go into Asia. The African was over there. You have to look at it from a cultural standpoint, and you can't keep Gullah with Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. It's bigger than that.
Much bigger.
It's a culture. So when I did Boston and New Hampshire, I went up there and they were eating beans. Now, I'm sure England, because of the climate, could not grow beans. Because when you go into Europe, those vegetables are brought in. Only thing they have basically is cabbage, but the beans and the green beans and things like that, they're imported. But honey, those women up there in New Hampshire, girl, they bake some beans. You hear me? You know what I'm saying? And so that's the beauty of culture. I grew up eating beef stroganoff. I know about it. My mom used to cook it. I've had friends say, do you like asparagus? Yeah, we ate asparagus. Y'all ate asparagus? Yeah, we ate asparagus. We ate Brussels sprouts too. And, you know, a girlfriend of mine in college, she said, I said, yeah. I said, we ate Brussels sprouts too. Like, we ate collard greens, yeah. But I mean, the foods alone. So my idea of it was to share, and I see it to this day. There should be quilting exhibits at Carteret. There should be pie bakings and things at the Baptist church. Every church should have something. There should be singing at this church one night, singing at that church another night. The whole city, because it takes everybody to make the Gullah culture into the Southern culture that we have today. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh my
That's
goodness,
beautiful.
yeah.
And we have not gotten to that part. So we're still like this.
Are you still involved in it at all?
I just sing.
Okay, just sing. Okay. And speaking of singing, well, I hear a little bit about your Hollywood adventures and who all you've met and some stories.
Yeah.
So I know you were in Forrest Gump, correct?
I was in Forrest Gump. I wasn't supposed to do that, though. They hired me to help with sites and some other... Oh, and to arrange some gospel tunes. That's what they initially helped me, asked me to do. They hired me to do that, and I was willing to do that. I could have stayed in that business, but I didn't like it. I'm a vocalist, and I didn't want to be an actress. Too much time, hurry up, and you sit there and you just wait all day. They make your face up, and and you're just there all day, just sitting there. Somebody's coming and bringing you lunch, and then you saying, what the hell? And you sitting there all day. The next minute, somebody's bringing you dinner. You're still not on the set. And when I got on the set, I had to say, are you crazy or plain stupid? Hell, all day. Just to say, are you crazy or are you plain stupid? Man, what the hell? I said, this is not for me.
That's amazing.
They try to get me to do other things.
That is amazing. And tell everyone what character, who you were in Forrest Gump.
I was Bubba's mama.
That is so funny.
They had this old dress on me. They had to cut my nails off and they took my lashes off, but they paid me for it though. They gave me money for it. Yeah. And then I had this old dress on, but they didn't tell me I had to fall. when I got the check.
yeah.
I didn't have a slip on. And so I kept, the Mexicans would say, okay, Marlene, action, fall. And I'd sit down. And he said, okay, Marlene, we're going to do it again. And I did it about 10 times, so he's about tired of my shit, And he said, Marlene, why can't you fall? And I said, I don't have a slip on. And I said, they're going to see my panties. And he said some choice words. And he said, now you're going to have to fall this time. Ain't nobody paying no attention to your panties. But this was the thing. They had, on both sides, it was 3 guys. And they looked like Mr. America. Oh, my God, girl. They had long hair, tight shorts on, and they had on combat boots. And they had these T-shirts, rolled up. Girl, and somebody my age, I just couldn't take it, but it's seeing my behind, you know what I mean? So I said, Lord have mercy. And when he told me to fall, one of the young men said, we got you. And honey, I fell and laid it out. And that was it.
Oh my God. That's amazing.
And it was all over.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing.
But can you imagine, though? You wouldn't want to do that.
Oh, that is. So Hollywood was not for you.
No. I like theater. I like the live audience stage. Art is something like, a visual artist can draw something and he can see himself in that. But when I'm on stage for that hour or for that 5 minutes singing a song, the audience tells me, I release myself into the audience and they tell me whether I'm true or not.
Oh, wow.
And so that is just pure, you know what I mean? That's pure delight. And it drains you. So if I'm doing a performance or even if it's a solo, if I'm not mentally and spiritually drained, then I have not worked to the peak of what I was supposed to do.
Wow.
How active are you in the Hallelujah Girls still today? Or, are y'all still performing pretty actively?
So we do a lot of corporate work. And so Hilton Head and Bluffton, Savannah, Charleston keeps me busy with weddings and corporate work. Now, they want to go back overseas, but they don't really understand how hard it is. It's hard work.
For people living in Beaufort, where can they find you guys? Do y'all do anything local still? Or mainly Hilton Head?
We always do Gullah Christmas. It may not be at home. And we've started this thing, Community Sing at Carteret United Methodist Church. But Christmas, somewhere we're always open and free to the public. And I may be back in Beaufort this year because I was in Hampton last year and in Garnet the year before.
Oh, okay.
So I may be home. And it's always free and open to the public. That's my gift back to Beaufort.
Oh, I love that. I hope that it is in Beaufort.
I know. It's a special gift. I love it. Okay. Anything that you want to leave this audience with and kind of holding true with your community and togetherness and anything else you want to say?
Don't forget that love is an action word.
Mm.
And you have to carry it out. And for those of you who are Bible toters or go to church every day, the Bible is only effective when you use it. Other than that, it's just a great literary book. But we have to go out and we have to love. And ladies, we need to tell our daughters how beautiful they are every day. And we need to tell our sons how great they are. They're not as great as they're going to be. And we need to tell fellow Americans, it's just today. We've had many battles. We are Americans, and we are going to be okay, regardless to what it may seem like. We're going to be okay because we're Americans. That's what I'd like to say.
Can we part this with one special note from you?
My favorite hymn would be Lord, I hear showers of blessings. Thou art scattering full and free. Thou, the thirsty land refreshing, let some drops now fall on me, and even me, Lord, oh, even me, even me, Lord, oh, even me. Let your drops now fall on me.
Wow, that was beautiful.
Wow. Okay.
That was so beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This has been such a fun
Thank
one.
you.
It's so fun.